I've been seeing questions on the stages of listening in terms of the stages of listening. So let us study that today. The listening process, sorry? The listening process involves 5 stages. First one is receiving, second is understanding, third is remembering, fourth is evaluating, and fifth is responding. By the way, yesterday in the group, I posted very important videos and that phonemes chat. Have you all seen that? One video on presentation skills, one on speaking skills, one on overcoming barriers to communication, and then this chart on phonemes. All this I posted in the mechanical and civil group. I am sure you must have seen those messages, and these are all important videos. That's the reason I posted them. So I expect all of you to please watch those videos. I expect all of you to take notes when you listen to that lecture. And of course, the phonemes chat, the reason for sending that phonemes chat is to help you, take at least 5 vowel sounds and 5 consonant sounds and use examples when you are asked to define phonetics and give examples on vowel sounds and consonant sounds. By the way, the meaning of phonetics is a scientific study of speech sounds. Right. Let's come back to this discussion on the 5 stages of listening. Receiving, understanding, remembering, evaluating, and responding. So first, the very first aspect of listening process is you need to receive the message. All of us, we know that there are 5 elements in the process of communication. Who can tell me the 5 elements in the process of communication? Can someone tell me? Yes, please. Sender,
receiver, chart,
channel,
channel, messaging, and feedback, sir.
Exactly, Kushal. So, sender, receiver, channel, text, and feedback. These are the 5 elements of communication. Now, in the first signals that are sent by the sender, we need to first of all understand the message that is sent by the sender in the first process, that is receiving. Second one is understanding. Okay, understanding that message. Third is remembering it. Okay, now, so first of all, when you receive it properly, you will respond. Response, of course, is also in terms of feedback, review, and remarks. Okay. Now, basically, an effective listener must hear and identify the speech sounds directed toward them. That means an efficient listener, an effective listener, he should first of all hear and identify the speech sounds. Identifying the speech sound. That's the reason we are learning, we are studying all those speech sounds. That's the reason the very definition of phonetics is a scientific study of speech sounds. So when you are familiar, when you familiarize yourself with the sounds of English language, then you will be able to easily receive or hear those sounds without any problems or deviations or distractions. Now, understand the message of those sounds. For example, now I am making a few sounds. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible in my pronunciation. And I'm trying to use all the formal words in my communication, interaction with my students in the classroom, so that more meaningful to all of them. This is more, resourceful to all of them. It is more resourceful to all of them. So now you are actually receiving the sounds that are made by the in the classroom. I'm sounding to be, there is one beautiful phrase or expression that says, he sounded very, very assertive. He sounded very assertive, meaning he was very, very firm about his decision. He did not have any idea about changing his decision. He sounded very assertive. Rather, he sounded very skeptical, meaning doubtful. He was very doubtful whether that will be done or not done. He sounded very skeptical. Will you do this job? He said, I don't know, let me see. That means he sounded very skeptical. So in the same fashion, the same manner, you are trying to understand the message of the sounds that are made by the sender. Critically evaluate or assess that message. Critical evaluation of the message is what is done by the receiver, not by the sender. Receiver. And you assess that message. Assessing, of course, is testing that message. Remember what has been said and respond either verbally or non-verbally to information they have received. So you will receive, you will remember, then you respond. Okay, it is almost something like the 3 R's that we discuss always in our classroom. That is, recall the context, retain the text, and reproduce it in the test. The 3 R's that we generally discuss in our classrooms all the time. People generally say listening is a passive skill. I don't agree with that. It is not a passive skill, it's an active skill. It is a receptive skill, not a productive skill. You receive the information in the listening process as the receiver, Right. Okay. So it can be verbal information verbally or information non-verbally. For example, now I use, not just in this class but in all my classes, I'm an active user of my hands, shoulders, facial expressions, voice modulation. You can see I have got a wonderful bass voice, so I make the most of the bass voice that God has given me, that God has blessed me with, so that I can sound, I can show you the inflections in my sound in my voice, or I can show you the, change in the pitch of the voice, or, the melody patterns, rising tone, falling tone. Otherwise, the class will be very boring till 4 o'clock. And students sitting there in their homes, I don't know in which state they are, in which mood they are. So for them to listen to the whole class, probably, perhaps it might be boring. I'm not saying it will be. It might be boring if I use the same tone from the beginning till the end of my class or session. Right. Okay. So let's go ahead and see more about these 5 stages of listening. So receiving is this is the first and most basic stage of listening process. The act of absorbing the information being expressed to you is receiving. You absorb the information that is being expressed. Now, while I am delivering this lecture, you are all absorbing the information that is being expressed to you, whether verbally or non-verbally. That means I'm using verbally my voice, and non-verbally I'm using lots of my hands. Change it. Hey, 315, switch off your microphone. 315. This fellow joined just now and he is creating unnecessary nonsense. Right. Who is this 315, by the way? What's your name?
Yes, Srinivas, sir.
Switch it off. Switch off your
Okay,
microphone.
sorry, sir.
Did you join just now?
Yes, sir, I came from out just now.
Okay, fine. Right, no issues. No issues. So, whether verbally or non-verbally, not all communication is done through speech, and not all listening is done with ears. You should bear it in mind, keep it in mind that not all the communication is done through speech, meaning body language sends different kinds of signals, facial expression sends different kinds of signals, gestures send different kinds of signals, movement of hands send different kinds of signals, whether I'm energetic or not, whether I'm alert or not, whether I'm interested or not, whether I am involved in this discussion or not, whether I am dedicated and disciplined in my preparation, planning, and presentation. So your non-verbal communication speaks volumes about you. it speaks volumes about you. Please make it, please write down. Non-verbal communication speaks volumes about yourself, your presentation, your preparation, your planning, all that. Now, not all communication is done through speech, not all listening is done with ears. That means even it is observed through eyes, generally observed through eyes. Focus all your energy on them by following these three simple tips. That means in the process of receiving, follow these three simple tips. What are they? Number one, avoid distractions. This is obvious. Do not have your cell phone out or your iPod in or the television on. I always tell you, is Sudendra there in the class? I always give you three kinds of, attentions. Undeviated. Sudendra, are you there?
Undivided, undivided, undisturbed.
Undeviated, undivided, undistracted attention. So that is the attention that we are learning, that we are listening to here in avoiding these distractions. Undeviated, undivided, undistracted attention in listening to something. Concentration, interest, dedication. CID, you can also take CID here. Listening with concentration, listening with interest, listening with dedication. Then you can avoid distractions. Not, playing with your cell phone there, or meddling, you're fidgeting your pen or something, iPod, televisions, all these things. Do not try to divide. Now when your cameras are off, I don't know how you are listening to, because all the cameras are off. Actually in the classroom all the cameras should be on. Now you see this fellow Yan Kiran who joined just now, that look at that display image. It should be something like children should be, not just children, even elders should be very, they'll be afraid to see this display picture. Look at the display picture of this fellow N. Kiran. These are all attention seekers. People who use these kinds of display pictures are known as attention seekers. Okay. Anyways, see how terrible it is. Instead of that, you could have actually, posted your beautiful photograph there instead of that, terrible, picture. Right, Kiran, are you there? Kiran. N. Kiran. Okay.
Yes, sir.
What is the DP? Okay. Anyways, display pictures. These are all your choices nowadays. Anyways, but it should be pleasant. It should not be something like, even in your dreams, you will have shocking kind of dreams. It should not be something like that. Anyways, right. So do not try to divide your attention between the speaker and something else. Meaning, do not distract yourself from the process of listening. Be in the process of receiving the signals, receiving the information, receiving the inputs. Receive the encoded information of the sender. Write down this point. Receive the encoded information of the sender properly so that you can decode it according to your understanding. Receive the encoded information of the sender properly so that you can decode it according to your understanding. Right. So encoding is done by the sender, decoding is done by the receiver. We all know that very well. Right. Next one. Do not interrupt the speaker. Do not interrupt the speaker. You might want to assume about what the speaker is saying or what they are about to say. Okay, do not. It is rude and you may find your assumption was wrong, which is beneficial to no one. You see, some of them in the classroom, generally students also, they try to speak something or the other. It is always good to respond, react. I always encourage that even in my classes, all of you know that. However, getting into too many assumptions might also prove wrong. It might also prove yourself wrong. What is the meaning of assumption? Can someone tell me the meaning of assumption? Anybody in the classroom? What is the meaning of assumption?
Unreal, hypothetical.
Imagination.
Imaginary. That is the reason even in mathematics, you listen to this word assumption. Let us assume the value of x as 5. Let us assume the value of y as 10, something like that. So that means these are all imaginary values. These are not actual values. In the same fashion, whatever you understand, whatever you assume might prove wrong. It might not prove correct all the time. Therefore, Do not interrupt the speaker while he is speaking by your responses, very repeated, very constantly and repeated. Whenever required, when you respond to him, when you react to him, that's a different thing. But repeatedly, constantly, you are trying to assume, you are trying to guess what the person is trying to say, what the person is trying to, explain, what the person has in his mind. That might not, that might be even interrupting the speaker mind. Right. Now, the next point in receiving is do not rehearse your response. Do not rehearse your response. Not yet. At this stage, your job is only to listen. If you start to plan a speech while the other person is speaking, you're going to miss certain points and not be able to respond to the larger message when it is your turn to talk. That means this is not the stage when you are where you are supposed to provide your response. Maybe this is not the stage where you are supposed to give your give the sender the summary of what you have understood in that lecture, the essence, the gist of whatever you have understood in that lecture. This is not the stage. If you start to plan a speech while the other person is speaking, you are going to miss certain points and not be able to respond to the larger message when it is your turn to talk. The meaning, you are busy preparing to give him response. These are practical examples that take place actually in the classroom. Some of the students who want to prove themselves as brilliant, or who want to prove themselves as extra smart in the classrooms, they will be busy preparing, or rehearsing is nothing but practicing their response. If a question is asked by the speaker, or if the speaker asks you to provide the gist, or essence or summary of whatever you have understood. Generally, I do that in my classroom. All of you know that there is also an action research. Action research, that means testing the listening ability, or retention ability, recalling ability, and reproducing ability of the student then and there on the spot in the classroom, is known as action research. Action research, that means by asking questions then and there. What did you understand? What are your doubts? Okay, what is the gist that you have understood? That's the reason in all my presentations you have got takeaway slide at the end of the presentation. What is your takeaway in this? I don't have thank you slide at the end of my presentation. I have takeaway slide at the end of my presentation. Why? Because that will tell you the just the sense, the summary in a nutshell or in a capsule about whatever has been explained in the classroom. Right. So do not be busy in rehearsing your response. Rather, focus on receiving the message that is sent by the speaker. Focus on receiving, first of all, the message, the text of the speaker. Because if you are busy rehearsing your response, you might miss the important points that are being explained by the speaker. That is also known as ADD or ADHD. All of you write down. ADD or ADHD. ADD meaning attention deficit disorder. Number two, ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That means some of the students are hyperactive, so they miss some important points in their over enthusiasm to answer the questions of the teacher, because they want to prove themselves as brilliant and genius in the classroom. Right. Okay.
Sir, repeat once again, sir. Last one.
See, some of the students are over enthusiastic.
No, sir. ADD and another one, sir.
Okay. ADD. Who is this? Who is
Sudhindra,
Sudhindra?
sir.
Okay. ADD is attention deficit disorder. Attention deficit disorder. Some of the students have this problem. Some of the students suffer from this problem. Number two, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Because they are hyperactive, because they are hyper enthusiastic, because they want to prove themselves as brilliant in the classroom by rehearsing the response, by recalling and retaining the essence, the summary, or the what do you call as
Just.
gist of it in a nutshell or in a capsule, they might miss some important points. So that should not be the case in your listening. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, is that fine? Are you all able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Right. I will go to the next slide. So after receiving, so in receiving, you have seen 3 points. Avoid distractions, number 1. Number 2, do not interrupt the speaker. Number 3, do not rehearse your response. So the main heading is receiving. Subheadings are avoid distractions, do not interrupt the speaker, do not rehearse your response. And let me take you to the next stage in the process of listening. Second stage, that is understanding. What is understanding? This is the point in the listening process where you can plan your response. Okay, understanding takes place after you have received the information from the speaker and begin to process its meaning. See, understanding is nothing but you are decoding the encoded information of the sender. Please make a note, please write down. You are trying to decode the encoded message of the speaker according to your understanding, according to your background knowledge, according to your levels of understanding. Decoding the encoded message of the sender. That is what happens in understanding. And this is where you can also plan your response in terms of how best you have understood. What are the problems you are in your understanding? What are your doubts? To express your clouds of doubts. What? To express what? Your clouds of doubts. A very beautiful expression. So understanding takes place after you have received the information from the speaker and begin to process its meaning. Processing the meaning is nothing but decoding the meaning, decoding the encoded information. That is what is called as processing. Is that clear to everybody? Civil and mechanical?
Yes, sir.
Shall I go to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, you can do this by asking questions or rephrasing parts of the speaker's message. You can do what? You can understand or you can process the information. You can decode the information by asking questions, by rephrasing parts of the speaker's message. Rephrasing. What is the meaning of rephrasing? Paraphrase, meaning you try to give your responses, your words, your understanding method, approach and technique by providing your responses to the speaker. This allows you to demonstrate your active engagement with their words and help you better understand their key points. So this will help you better understand their key points. What will help you? By properly understanding or properly decoding the encoded information of the sender. Okay, that will demonstrate your active engagement with their words. With whose words? Their meaning sender's words. Sender's words. And that will help you better understand their key points. Key points. Meaning important points. Right. Now, after receiving and understanding, we are entering into the third stage of listening, that is remembering. Remembering is about retaining that information. And the most effective way to do so in an important conversation is to move the key elements of a message from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. What do I mean? You are moving your, moving what? Most effective way to do so in an important conversation is to move the key elements of a message. Move the key words of a message. Move the important words of a message from short-term memory into your long-term memory. I generally say that in the classroom. What do I say this generally? The more the merrier. The more you use the language, the more it gets saved in your long-term memory. Did I say this in the classroom or not?
Yes, sir. Many times.
Many times. Use it or lose it concept is what I introduced several times in the classroom. That means the more you use these fixed expressions, target language expressions, the more they get saved, and they get
Registered.
registered in your long term. Wonderful word. Thank you, Sudhedra. Registered in your long term memory. Registered in your long term memory. Okay. Of course, this is what I generally keep saying in my classroom. Recall the context, retain the text, and reproduce it in the test. That means contextually you recall it, then you retain the text, retention, and reproduce it in the test. Also, you can write Write down this, recall the context in the text, reproduce in the test in remembering process, because recalling is remembering. Retaining also, it has got something to do with remembering, retention. And most importantly, reproducing it in the test is what is important. That is the reason, if you observe very carefully, some of the words in English language, if you do not use them for a longer period of time, you will forget them. You will forget them. And later on, maybe at a certain point of time, when you actually need that word, need that combination of words, fixed expressions, target language expressions, you will have to struggle very hard to recall the word, recollect the word, to use it in the connected speech or to use it in the spoken communication. Do you agree with me, everybody?
Sir.
Right. Okay. So moving on this slide, the important point is move the key elements of a message from STM to LTM. Move the key elements of a message or keywords of a message, key information of a message from short-term memory to long-term memory, into long-term memory. Next one. There are numerous methods for doing this. For doing what? For moving those key elements from short-term memory to long-term memory, there are many methods. Okay, identify the fundamental points. By converting a collection of small details into a central theme, you can create something potentially complicated into an easy to grasp general concept. The details will remain in your short-term memory, but isolating the main ideas will help you understand them better and remember them longer. You see, what all that I'm trying to say here is, more than this paragraph that you see here, listen to my notes and take these notes as one example of remembering. For example, what I do as a resource person, as a professor, as a teacher, to remember, the notes, the lecture in my classes is, I will try to form a password of all the main headings. For example, in these 5 stages of listening, because in the 5 elements of communication, we know all the 5 elements of communication. To remember this 5 stages of listening easily, if we observe the this one. So what I do here is, I will take the first letter of all these headings. R, R. You see? R, R. So R, R are the 5 stages of listening. So that means first R is receiving. Even in the examination, this tip will help you a lot. This is called a mnemonics. 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 That means with the help of these letters, you are forming an acronym. So that you will remember the full form of it, full abbreviation of it. So R in the first stage, R is receiving, then second is understanding, another R is remembering, R evaluating, and finally responding. So this is one method of remembering the information, retaining the information for your easy understanding, and most importantly, remembering it, recalling it, and reproducing it when the situation demands. That's what I'm trying to help you. R, R, always remember. R, R. First R is what? Receive. Second U is what? Understanding. Third R is what? Remembering. Okay. What is E? Evaluating. Finally, what is R? Responding. It is easier for you to, make it's a kind of password that I have prepared for myself, because nowadays life is full of passwords. We are leading our lives in passwords. So here the 5 stages of listening is, the password is RUR, ER. RUR is RUR, ER is ER, RUR, ER. So that you can easily remember the main headings. When you know the main headings, you can also get the subheadings. You can nicely write the 5 stages of listening and get very good marks in your examination. Nice step, visit it. Nice tip for all of you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. It is not that you don't know. Most of us have been practicing even for your MSET examinations, for your 10th examinations, that number. Right. Now, okay.
Again recalling it.
Again recalling it, exactly. So that is, that is what I would like to give here as an example. Whereas this one is not very clear. That's the reason I have given your own 5 stages of listening. That creating a password, creating an acronym as one method of remembering the main headings. Remembering the main. You can write the same example also in the examination. You will get very good marks, no doubt about it. Right, next one. Uh, to continue our discussion under this main heading, remembering, make the message familiar. If the speaker touches some old memories and past experiences, it becomes easy to retain the attention of the listener. Use those to help you retain incoming information as a listener. For instance, for example, whatever I have taught you here, whatever practice I follow in my classrooms, when I have given expenses, for example, in all my Oxford workshops, this is one of the tips that I follow. So past experiences, old memories. Not only this, I've also told you, the other acronyms that I generally remember. For example, we have got our Bloom's taxonomy. So there, the password that I've created for myself is, okay, Ru A Ek. Ru A Ek. First R is remember. Second U, understand. Okay. Then I have two A's. So Ru A. Ru A. First A is analyze. Next A is apply. Analyze, apply. Ek. E is evaluate. C is create. Create. You see how easier it is for me to remember all the 6 verbs. R, U, A, okay, E, C, 6 verbs under Bloom's taxonomy. So we work a lot on this in our outcome-based education, and 24 hours we work on these verbs. But this creating this password, creating this acronym, it looks fantastic for me. It looks really brilliant for me, so that I will not miss the important main headings. And when I know the main headings, I can easily get the subheadings there. Right. Okay. Great. If the speaker touches some old memories and past experiences, it becomes easy to retain the attention of it becomes easy to retain the attention of the listener. Use those to help you retain incoming information as a listener. So the same example you can use there. 23. Do you want to say something? 320. Okay. Now, stage in our listening, that is evaluating. So we have also come to the close of this. So what is the password that we have created for 5 stages of listening? Can someone tell me?
Earlier.
Yeah, RUAR. That means remember, receive, understand, okay, evaluate, receive, understand. Is it directly
Remember.
evaluation? Receive, understand,
remember,
evaluate,
respond.
respond. That means RUR, receive, okay, understand, remember, evaluate, respond. Now we are looking at evaluating part of it. And it is at this stage where you can begin to prepare for your response. But remember, you are still a listener, not a speaker. After the message has been absorbed, after it has been processed and remembered, you can begin to sort the information into pieces. That means once you decode the informations encoded by the sender, once you absorb and process the information and remember the information, then you will begin to actually arrange it in a sequence that you can easily understand, in a logical sequence or chronological sequence. That is evaluating it. Evaluate what is the first step, what is the second step, third step, what is the introduction, what is the body, what is the conclusion. In that fashion, you will sort the information into pieces, unity, coherence, balance, all that. That is evaluation. Is it clear? Shall I go to the next slide with the permission of all of you who are listening to this class online on Zoom room?
Sir, 1 minute, sir. Last point.
Last point, do you want me to repeat, or
No, sir, noting down.
writing the slide? Oh, okay, fine, right. You can tell me if you want me to stop. You can please tell me, because this is not a physical classroom, and I do not want to put you in trouble if you are still writing your notes. Okay. So absorbing the message, processing the message, remembering the message. After all these things are done, that means in receiving you are absorbing. Okay. Then in understanding you are processing it. In remembering, of course, retention of the message happens. Then evaluation, you are sorting out the information, sorting it out according to your easiest convenient way of remembering it, understanding it, or reproducing it when the situation demands whatsoever. Is it okay? Shall I go to the next one now?
Sir, you may proceed.
You know, this fellow Sudhendra, he tells me as if this is generally said in the court of law. When lawyers fight the case in the court of law, offense lawyer, defense lawyer, you might have seen even in the movies, the judge says, you may please proceed, is what the judge says. But you should not say that to a teacher. You can say, yes, sir, please go on, is what you should say. Proceed is more of a formal word. Okay, there's nothing wrong in that. I'm just giving an example, that's all. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Right. Nothing wrong in it. Nothing wrong in it. He said, you may proceed. Now you may proceed. Okay. So may is also a very polite way of saying that. So there is nothing wrong with that. I'm just giving an example there. That's all.
You can go on, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Sudhindra. It is evaluating. It is at this stage where you can begin to prepare for your response. But remember, you are still a listener, not a speaker. After the message has been absorbed, processed, you can begin to sort the message information into pieces. Okay, let us go to the next slide. Now, under evaluation process, that means that sorting that information, which is fact, what is opinion. Facts are different, opinions are different. That is where you sort them. Then what parts of their message were interpreted and which parts were unbiased. That also you can differentiate, compare and contrast. What parts of the text or message that has been sent by the sender is properly, an interpretation is nothing but understood, and which parts were unbiased. The meaning of unbiased is no preferential treatment. Biased is preferential treatment, stepmotherly attitude. Okay, favoritism, stepmotherly attitude, preferential treatment, all that. Whereas unbiased, that means which parts of the sender's message was not, it was not favoring a particular section, or it was not preferential treatment of a particular section. That means without any partiality, nothing but unbiased is nothing but which parts were spoken without any partiality. That's the meaning of that. Now, what was the speaker's intent with their message? That means what was the speaker's intention, with the message? That means what is his actual agenda, hidden agenda? We call it as agenda. After interpreting the speaker's message through a combination of understanding, retention, and evaluation, you are ready to form a response. So after going through all this, when you sort the information, this is how you divide them into facts and opinions. You will divide them into what is that you have understood, what are the opinions that are sent by the speaker that are impartial, that means without any partiality. IMPARTIAL, impartial, meaning without any partiality. What was the speaker's intention with their message? All this is what you sort out in your process of evaluating. This is what you sort when you write your notes. Even now, while you are listening to me, this is what you do actually. You sort out all this information when you take your notes. Depending on what are the facts that you have understood, what are the opinions that you have understood. Okay, what is that which points that I express are impartial. Okay, which points, how best do you understand the intention of the speaker. And after interpreting the speaker's message through a combination of all these things, understanding, retention, evaluation, now you are ready with your response. That means to provide your feedback, review, remarks, to provide your summary, essence, gist in a nutshell or in a capsule. Right. Okay. Now finally responding, because RUR and A, RURE, 4 stages we have finished. We are in the last stage, that is responding. What is this one? If you have completed the receiving, understanding, remembering, and evaluating portions of the listening process, responding should be easier than ever. That means you have received information properly, you have understood the information properly, you have remembered the information properly, you have also evaluated the portions properly. Then response should not be a problem for you at all. That's the reason I keep asking questions in the classroom several times. What is the meaning of this word? What are the quotations that you remember? Okay, what are 3 R's? What are 3 P's? What is the full form of SMART? What is the full form of MAT? What is the full form of JACK? What are the 4 D's that you learn in the classroom? Okay, I keep asking you in the classroom. What are the main headings? What are the subheadings? That means when your reception is proper, when your interpretation, understanding is proper, when you're remembering, recalling, retaining is proper, when your evaluating process is proper, then response should not be a problem for you at all. Feedback, review, remarks should not be a problem for you at all. It is important to understand the transition between listening and speaking, though, and be aware of the ways responding is still a part of the active listening process. Transition between listening and speaking, they both are interconnected, intertwined, interlinked. Listening, without listening, there is no speaking. Without speaking, there is no listening. They both are interconnected, just like reading and writing. So there is a transition that takes the smooth transition that takes. Transition is nothing but smooth progress, smooth move that moves from listening to speaking. Okay, and one should be very carefully understanding it, because now while I'm speaking, you are listening. So these two are interconnected, intertwined, interlinked. No speaking, no listening. No listening, no speaking. That's how they are interconnected, intertwined, interlinked. And responding is still a part of the active listening process. So by properly listening, by properly receiving the information, by properly understanding it, by properly, remembering it, and by properly evaluating or sorting out the information, you'll be in a position to respond actively, respond in an interesting manner, respond enthusiastically, with zeal, with, eagerness, curiosity, so on and so forth. Now, do not complete the speaker's sentences. This is a presumptuous and rude way to sig into your own response. That means you don't say the words what speaker is trying to say. It impedes on the receiving process and will make the original speaker want to listen to you less. That means generally when the speaker observes you, you are saying more than what is necessary. You are repeating or responding more than what is necessary. Probably the speaker might want to avoid such kind of people. So do not complete the speaker sentences. You don't try to complete his sentences. You can respond depending on the need, depending on the requirement, depending on the need. You can respond. Are you all following, civil and mechanical engineering students?
Yes, sir.
Addressing
Yes,
the
sir.
speaker's point. It will make it easier for the speaker to transition into a listener when they know exactly what part of their message you are addressing. So when you address the speaker's points, then the speaker will become the listener. Then he will understand that you have properly received his encoded information. You have properly understood his encoded information. You have properly evaluated his encoded information, and you have properly, uh, evaluated, and therefore you are responding properly. Now he becomes a very patient listener, listening to you to know how much you have understood, how much you have evaluated, how much you have received, how much you have remembered, how much you have evaluated, to know all that. Right. So that is your takeaway today in your 5 stages of listening. That is RR. So first R is, of course, receive. Second is understand. Third is remember. Fourth is evaluate. And finally, response. So that is about the 5 stages of listening. I hope it has been, useful and meaningful, resourceful to all of you. Do you have any doubts in this 5 stages of listening? Anybody? Any words? Any explanation that I've given you? Any doubts here? Anybody?
No, sir.
Right. Thank you very much. I think I'll stop it here. Amatrisha, please forward those numbers to me.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. So tomorrow, in our tomorrow's class, we will see. I'll go back to the question bank itself, and the rest of the modules. Let us try to finish off, because day after again we have our lab, and we'll have to see which week are we going to do because of the Republic Day, 26th, which fell on a Wednesday. Is it 7th week that we are going to do on Wednesday? Forthcoming Wednesday? No issues. Okay, we will check it out. We'll check it out. No issues. In the meantime, yeah, Trisha, you want to say something?
6th week, sir.
6th week. Okay, fine. Sorry. Now, Please try to go through the videos that I posted in your mechanical and civil group. Also practice that phoneme chat properly, all the 44 sounds, which will be useful for your examination. And likewise, I'll keep sending if there is anything important in your mechanical and civil group. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm stopping it here. Amma, please forward those numbers, Trisha.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.